We're pleased that Reverend MaryAnn Macklin can join us on Zoom for a message today. We're so glad to have you back in our pulpit, and we're excited that you'll be sharing a holiday message and more messages in 2026. Let me give you a brief introduction to MaryAnn. She recently completed a 2-year interim ministry at First Unitarian Church in Louisville. She has served other UU congregations in Madison, Wisconsin, and Bloomington, Indiana. She considers herself a mystical humanist or a humanist mystic, depending on the day. She applauds our Little Oak Landing UU congregation for our 150 and 175-year anniversaries and our can-do attitude. So please join me in welcoming MaryAnn to the pulpit. Let's give her some snaps. I'll have you unmute.
Yes, indeed. And I believe first of all, it is really great to be here. I miss being up there with you in person, truly. But I'm glad you didn't cancel. And I was just overjoyed to know that I was going to be able to do this. It's great to share this with your congregation. And thanks to Jan for all you have done to make this happen today. Stepping up, having to move place, all of the above. Really appreciate that, Jan, and just your stewardship throughout the week for me in preparing for this. And also, I just appreciated the reminder of Advent and what that means, and also in this time of joy, which I will be speaking about. And what a lovely picture of Stonehenge for our People Look East. That just filled my heart. So I welcome everybody here who is joining us today. And I believe I start with a meditation, correct? So I thought I almost decided not to do this, but I am going to do this, and that is we're going to do a movement meditation. I did this last time I was with you. I wasn't planning on doing this again, but I thought we're all just sitting here. Now, you can remain sitting there and just do the hand gestures. You can stand up if you'd like. I just thought it would feel good to get our bodies moving. And and my hesitation is I'm going to move my camera in my study, which is going to show the background of my closet, which is filled with Star Trek stuff. But I decided to get over that, and you'll just all have to see that when I do it. So, in a great effort of technological, okay, cat, let go of my stole. Okay, the cat had my stole. And I'm gonna come out here, and I think you can see it, correct? Yeah, and there's all my Star Trek stuff. There's Spock, there's Janeway. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, blessings upon you. It's all good. Um, so I wanted to do this movement meditation. One, it's something I turn to daily, and I love teaching it. It comes from my spiritual mentor, Angela Sarian. And she spent her life. She herself was from an indigenous people from the Basque area of Spain, and she spent her life as a cultural anthropologist studying the traditions of indigenous people. And so she learned this. So I'm going to start by teaching it again at the beginning, and then we'll do it one more time, and then we'll do it once in silence. So it begins with a teaching from the Inuit people of the North. And it begins with, it is a good day to fly. It is a good day to die. So it's out here. And what Angeles was saying was that the flying is what's your aspiration for the day? So maybe it's joy. Um, and so you think of just a word. And then it is a good day to die is also what would let you could let go today that would allow you to inhabit this piece, your intention for the day. So what would help you inhabit that? So that's the first movement. And the next comes from East Africa. It is a good day to stand in our long, tall bodies so we can come deep, deep into our roots. And the deep, deep into our roots is honoring our ancestors. So from the Maasai in East Africa, again, it's, and now let us come into our long, tall bodies which I just saw a video yesterday, and this is just a movement that puts us right in our bodies and then going deep, deep into our roots. And then the end, Angela said, both a mixture of the Basque people as well as Celtic, for we are a strong, and you stomp your foot, soft and subtle creature, and a little snap there. So, for we are a strong, soft, and subtle creature. So now I'll do it, and I'll ask you to do it with me as much as you want to, or if the visual is what you like, just watch and listen. So here we go. It is a good day to fly. It is a good day to die. It is a good day to come into our long, tall bodies so we can go deep, deep into our roots. For we are a strong, soft, and subtle creature. And now we do it in silence together. And I will continue on into a space of meditation. So I'll ask you to settle in and breathe, as Jan started us with at the beginning. Gracious Spirit of love and light, we gather in this time of waiting, being in the present with the time, but also being present with the anticipation in our hearts. We give thanks for this day, this opportunity through technology to join together, to take this time of pause and worship, to honor that which is within each of us, that nature of spirit, of love that is always available, is always present, even when we don't feel it. We settle in knowing there's no other place we need to be right now, nothing else we need to be doing. We have all chosen to be here. So may we be here. And in our hearts, remembering all those who may be suffering, all beings who may be suffering throughout the world, in mind, body, or spirit. May we draw a blanket, a cover of comfort, and a blessing of joy for all those who may be suffering, knowing it may be someone near to us or ourselves. It may be any being. So may love be with us and guide us in this time. Again, gratitude for this opportunity to be together. So may it be. Shalom, salam, blessed be. Amen. Ooh, thanks again, everyone. Settle in, and let's get my papers here. I really do enter this time full of gratitude for all of you. I have my little Charlie Brown Christmas tree here that you can probably see parts of it. There's some of the little guys. There's um some of the figures from Charlie Brown. There's Snoopy and Lucy and all of the above. And I've been thinking about something I read yesterday, that so many of us, if not all of us in the world, feel like there's we are not enough And in feeling that, we're saying there's not enough love to go around. And so my questions begin with, really? Maybe there is enough love to go around, enough joy to be found. So the question is there enough love to go around? Is there enough joy to be found? As we were talking, we enter these holiday times. My cat is settling into a very precarious place. Hold on here. Can't believe that. Hey, you've chosen to be here. You just need to settle in, buddy. Yeah, you're knocking things down. So we're in the holiday time. So this is a time of expectation. And I'm probably going to come back to that a couple of times because expectations can and often do create stress. And then we come back to those questions. Is there enough love around? Is there enough joy to be found? I do believe the answers are yes and yes. I believe there's abundance of both. As I said in the meditation, maybe we can't find it all the time, but I've found if I pause and really search, it is available. Or if it's not, I can find people who can offer that for me when I cannot have it for myself. And that to me is the joy of congregational community, is that sometimes when we can't access it, others can help until we can access it again by ourselves. Finding joy is then a part of the journey. So a while back, a friend of mine had a dream. Now, in her real life, this friend worked in an institution and was a supervisor. And one day, an employee whom she was supervising was having a really rough time, just like we were talking about. My friend listened to this person's struggles and pain, which seemed to help in and of itself. Often listening does that. But that night, in a dream, my friend received a clear message for this employee. The message was, lower the bar for joy. It wasn't lower yourself for joy. It simply was lowering that bar, just lowering the bar for joy. What we all create here together on a Sunday. And again, Jan mentioned that, just the gifts of music and all of those. We get used to it, but there is a joy that comes in these rituals we do together. It is here. I think the lowering the joy is to step out of the usual higher expectations, just going, oh, it's right here with us. Last night, as I often do, continued the creation of working on this sermon. I thought about the questions that we were looking at. Is there enough love to go around? Is there enough joy to go around? And I thought of another theologian. Now, I said I was going to talk about Charles Schulz today, but I also want to talk about Madeleine L'Engle. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Madeleine L'Engle. She's a writer. She was a science fiction writer. And I happened to be reading one of her books again. I just picked it up. I'm not sure why I'm reading it. It's called A Swiftly Tilting Planet. And in that, I was reading last night, there is a dog that shows up, and one of the young characters names the dog Ananda. That is Sanskrit, as Madeleine L'Engle goes into, for that joy in existence which the universe will fall apart, without it will fall apart and collapse. It's like the weaving of what creates the universe. In Hinduism, it is a part of what is called Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and what they call bliss, and I want to call joy, just because of the way we interpret that in the Western culture. Sat means presence. It is the very presence of I am, much of what we're experiencing right now. Then Chit is the awareness of what we are experiencing, not the I, but just the awareness behind it. And then Ananda. what was described in the book as the Sanskrit, that joy in existence which the universe without it will fall apart. So that weaving. But here, there is a deeper dive into that. Ananda meaning, Nanda itself means contentment, being content. And then if you put a long Ananda, it means a deep contentment, a divine joy. It says it represents an ultimate divine state in our temporary world of things that come and go. It's what we find through meditation, I think through worship services, through those times when we are present with one another. Now, there is that Buddhist saying that all life is suffering. And one of the biggest teachings I received is the word suffering in the Western culture is a bit of a misnomer. It is all life is discontentment because we have these expectations and we want things to be solid. I want little Snoopy to be solid, right? And be here forever. And that's not the world we live in. But discontent, I believe, is easier to work with. And when we look at that word ananda again, as we look at joy, is there enough love to go around? Is there enough joy to be found? If joy is deep contentment, then that means just being with what is around us and seeing it for what it is. So that was the deep thought I went into last night, and it felt really important to share that and also to think of Ananda, that joy that weaves together all that is in our universe. Now, in this book I'm reading, the adult who said to the child who named the dog Ananda said, "That's a mighty big name for a dog to carry." And that reminded me of Snoopy because there's a lot of we I think a lot of archetypal pieces we put on Snoopy, and it's fun to explore that in a cartoon that is so sacred to everybody. It seems to me it speaks to so many people. So now I'm going to enter another world of the great theologians, and that would be Charles Schulz, who created the comic Peanuts. Now, last week on December 9th, 2025, was the 60th anniversary of, for many, a very beloved holiday television tradition that is A Charlie Brown Christmas. How many of you have seen it? I hope many of you have. Yes. It first aired in 1965. Now, I always have to check for those of you who might not be familiar with the Charlie Brown Christmas. This is a brief synopsis. In this special, Charlie Brown finds himself depressed despite the onset of the cheerful holiday season. After Lucy Van Pelt suggests he direct a neighborhood Christmas play, his best efforts are ignored and mocked by his peers when he chooses a puny Christmas tree as the centerpiece. And that's this tree right here with one bulb. And I love it that your Christmas tree there at Oak Landon is missing a bulb because it's right here. So here's the bulb, which makes us connected. Now, in an ironic twist on this idea of lowering the bar for joy, the network's executives, when you begin to, as I began to read about how this whole Charlie Brown Christmas was created, the executives lowered the bar on joy on Charles Schulz over and over. They thought the show would be a bomb, and they had little expectations for the show. They felt it was too gloomy, it was too slow paced. The animator director, Bill Menendez, feared that his show might ruin the entire Peanuts world. It was that bad, and what they were all saying about it. In one article I read, the writer Ethan Alter interviews Schultz's widow. He died in 2000. Gene Schulz is 75 years old today. And she said, laughing, "You can imagine a bunch of advertisers and executives looking at it and thinking it was sluggish and slow. But they had to run it anyway because they had booked the airtime. They really didn't want to run it. They thought, oh, well, we'll just let it go." So these are the parts that I want you to listen to that I found in article after article were the items of disagreement about the executives and advertisers with Charles Schulz about A Charlie Brown Christmas. Charles Schulz did not want professional actors or children actors. He wanted the voices of real children, which is what they ended up with. The executives and advertisers wanted a laugh track. Some, including the show's producer, felt that only a laugh track would save the show. But Schulz was not persuaded. Snoopy doesn't talk, and sometimes there is simply silence in the show. And again, they did not like that. They wanted to clip it down. A big item, there was no appearance of Santa Claus. They wanted Santa Claus to appear, and Charles Schulz said no. The sermon is what they call this, is my favorite part. And that's where Linus gets up and quotes the Bible at one part. And that it actually is a voice against commercialism on a show. Of course, the advertisers did not like that one single bit. And also, here was a big one. Jazz music? Oh no. Oh no, not jazz. Not in a Christmas show. So I continued to explore things, and I actually went back to a list of things that these are characteristics of a white supremacy culture. So they are perfectionism, a sense of urgency, defensiveness or denial about the way things should be, definitely quantity over quality, belief that there's an absolute right way to do this, paternalism, very binary thinking, it's either going to be this way or that way, power hoarding, the fear of open conflicts, individualism, progress defined as more, right for profit, objectivity, and we have to keep people comfortable. Now, Charles Schulz was not buying into this, and he was a very quiet person. And his wife talks about this. It wasn't like he was going, no, he just said, I believe we should keep this the way it is. Now, the show itself has its meanness. There's bullying in it, and it deals with holiday depression from the get-go. Now, the opening scene is rather pleasant. I think we heard the music from that earlier. We see light snow falling, and most of the characters are skating angelically across the frozen pond. But in the next scene, we find Charlie Brown talking to his friend Linus, and he says this: "I think there must be something wrong with me, Linus. Christmas is coming, but I'm not happy. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel. I just don't understand Christmas, I guess. I like getting presents and sending Christmas cards and decorating trees and all that, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed." That's a pretty big thing to have in a children's Christmas story when you think of it. And Linus says to him, "Charlie Brown, you're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a problem. Maybe Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you are the Charlie Brownest." He goes to Lucy for advice. Now, what you have to know, and you find this in the background as you begin to look at it, Schulz had been bullied in school and had dealt with self-doubt and depression all his life. And Lucy says to Charlie Brown, after he tells her what he's going through, "Incidentally, I know how you feel about all this Christmas business," Lucy says. "Getting depressed and all that, it happens to me every year. I never get what I really want. I always get a lot of stupid toys or maybe a bicycle or clothes or something like that. And then Charlie Brown looks at her and goes, well, what is it that you do want? And Lucy says, real estate, which is a great moment in the show. So Charlie Brown keeps encountering the commercialism of Christmas. And again, look at what the advertisers were not wanting to be in the show. His dog Snoopy enters a contest for neighborhood light and decoration, and Snoopy decorates his doghouse in an extravagant manner. His sister Sally asks Charlie Brown to help her write a letter to Santa. In the end, she asks Santa for cold, hard cash, specifically tens and twenties. Then there is a big party with lots of dancing, and no one was paying attention to the play he was trying to direct. It is said that Charles Schulz had been dismayed with the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special, which came out the year before in 1964. Do folks remember that one? That was also one that was on television, still is. Because the characters were also in the commercials for the sponsor. That doesn't happen as much, but I can remember that clearly. It was even under the dome of the General Electric Fantasy Hour. That's what it was called when the Rudolph piece came on. There were commercials with elves riding hair dryers and songs with vacuum cleaners and a toaster oven. So the actual commercialism was made with the characters from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer piece. And Schulz didn't care for that. Schulz did get pushback about the fact that Linus should recite from the Gospel of Luke. I look at this as he chose to have Linus read from a sacred text. His producer and animator director even protested. We looked at each other and said, well, there goes our careers right down the drain. Producer Mendelsohn recalls nobody had ever animated anything from the Bible before, and we knew it probably wouldn't work. We were flabbergasted by it, and they called it the sermon. So here's Charlie Brown right before that. He says, I guess you're right, Linus. I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? Sure, Charlie Brown, Linus says. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. And then he goes, lights, please. And the lights focus down, and he reads this. And there were in this same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And in the glory of the Lord shone about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. Peace, goodwill. I think it's funny that they call this the sermon because there's no explanation. There's nobody telling you what it means. Linus just reads it. And again, Schulz's wife, who called him Sparky, that was his nickname, Charles Schulz, she said, Sparky felt as though he put his best ideas into the show and expressed everything he wanted to say. But you can see how what Sparky was looking for was different than what the advertisers were looking for. From the late 1980s, Schulz said in interviews that people had described him as a secular humanist, partly because of this show, but that he did not know one way or another. I do not go to church anymore, he said. I guess you might say I've come around to perhaps secular humanism. I have an obligation I believe all humans have to others to make the world a better place that we live in. And then again, his wife said, I think that he was a deeply thoughtful and spiritual man. Sparky was not the sort of person who would say, oh, that's God will, or God will take care of it. I think of him, that would have been too easy of a statement. And he felt that God or whatever was out there was much more complicated. When he came back from the army, Sparky was very lonely. His mother had died, and he was invited to church by a pastor who had prepared his mother's service. And Sparky's father was worried about him and was talking to the pastor. And so the pastor invited Sparky to come to church. So he went and he stayed and he eventually taught Sunday school and everything else. But when he taught Sunday school, he never told people what to believe. The sense of God was important to him, but in a very deep way, it was so mysterious. As you might be thinking what I am thinking, I wish he would have found the Unitarian Universalist. I think he would have found a spiritual home there. And I think many people can find a spiritual home here and they don't know about us. And so when I read things like this, when I study things like this and find yet another person who may have made their home in Unitarian Universalism, I want to remember for myself personally to keep reaching out and to let other people know what this means to me. Again, Charles Schulz's wife. As I delved deeper and deeper into the comic strip, I continued to learn what an amazing human Sparky was. He was ever curious, and before there was Google, he sought out professional friends when he wanted to explore ideas he had for the comic strip, from ophthalmologists for amblyopia, general doctors, and of course, veterinarians for all of Snoopy's queries. So he was, I I feel like curiosity is such one of the biggest compliments of the human spirit and something I certainly find with my fellow Unitarian Universalists all over. Schulz and Charlie Brown's message of perseverance in the face of dejection resonates with me as a type of joy. He actually stuck with what he wanted, and now we have a Charlie Brown's Christmas. And I believe it brings joy to us just to hear the music sometimes. And really, jazz was just like, they were like, jazz? No, not jazz. And I hear that. And now that I know the story behind it, it makes it even more important that they were saying no to it. And now he, perhaps in a deep contentment, said yes over and over to what he knew to be true. One of his co-writers said, hopefully this program will be soothing at a time of uncertainty for all of us. And I think that's maybe how we lower our bar for joy, to believe that there is enough love out there, that we can cultivate a deep contentment. We don't have to follow what everybody else is saying, and just know there is enough joy out there for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in this learning with me and deepening in my own sense of what this all means and blessings, blessings, blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It really makes me want to watch the special again. It's been a while since, it was in rotation when my kids were little. We played it, all the time, but on the VHS tape. But it really makes me, and I did not know all those things about the background of all the things that were told. No, it makes total sense. But I think it played so long, you just think that that's how it was forever. So that's really, really good.
Exactly. Wonderful.
Um, I do resonate with I think in more recent years, I've resonated a little bit with the Charlie Brown comment about I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel.
Yeah.
Um, you know, trying to put lipstick on a pig sometimes, it feels like, with some of the things that are happening around what's going
Yeah.
on. But I still want to celebrate those things. We still made the candy. I'm still sending out cards. I love to get cards because it does feel like a touchstone for people that have been part of of our lives, for so long. So that really, really great.
Yeah.
Great, great, great message as always. Um, I was also struck with when you talked about Ananda, the very first meditation class I ever took, that was the mantra that was given to everyone. So I thought that was, and
Yeah.
I remember during the pandemic when I couldn't sleep sometimes, I had like these little things I ran through that I would do in my head. One of those was to say that mantra. I
Yeah.
also use the when I breathe in love. When I breathe out peace,
Yeah.
whichever one I'm saying backwards. But anyway,
Yeah.
that just really struck me. And I was also thinking about joy because you're in Bloomington, and with Fernando winning the Heisman last night, that was we could raise the bar up a little bit, not necessarily lower the bar,
Yeah.
but that was
I think it's just like, yeah, Heisman Doza. We were all celebrating, and I know some of you were too, and some of you may not be sports fans, but it is kind of just unbelievable. I sat through. I'm a football fan. Sat through literally at the stadium, even back in the 80s, like these horrible, horrible seasons. So it's just kind of like a holiday miracle.
yeah,
Have Indiana football? Football? So that's fun to go with it.
yeah. Mary Beth had a question. Could I have the whole
Uh,
Sanskrit phrase?
yes, the Sanskrit phrase, and this was provided in um, by Madeline L'Engle in the book, so you might want to look at it too. But the joy in existence with which the universe, or without it, the universe will fall apart and collapse. And Jan, when you were saying that about sending the cards, and we do these things, I feel like that's part of our weaving of that joy. When we take those actions to just bring a little bit more of that connection into the world, that we are part of that, of Ananda. And I also love that part that Nanda means contentment, and if you do a long A, Nanda, it means deep, a deep contentment.
Content. Yeah.
So I'm going to say that one again. That again, this is the one that Madeline L'Engle provided in a swiftly tilting planet. That joy in existence, without which the universe will fall apart. And so I think we contribute that in our own ways, as we do in this world. Um, And it's also why I enjoy congregational life. I feel like we do a lot of that.